Idil Abdullahi. I'm a henna and ceramic artist, and I'm original from Somalia. I came here to Australia as a refugee back in the 90s. In terms of what got me into arts and ceramics, I think even back in Somalia, I really used to be interested in some arts, and actually thinking about it and reflecting on my first art experience. It actually takes me back to Somalia and the madrasa, and which is the duksi as we know it in Somali, and that to me was my first place of learning and my memory of actually making work. And I used to love that whole process of coming each day, wiping the wooden tablet, or as we know it as the loh. Every morning we would come, wipe the tablet from yesterday's lesson, and again rewrite it. And we would write in Arabic. So even though it wasn't my native language, I still loved that act of having to write the divine word in that way. And to me, it was a very artistic experience, I feel, looking back at it. And I think it was my first memory, and my I think how it comes about, it was my first sort of real experience, and what always brings me back to making. I used to love the madrasa period and writing, and we would make our own ink, we would make our own wooden pens, and look for trees to sort of color the lines for the tablet as well, and that whole process of learning, but as well as engaging, I think the visual mind, it was really a beautiful experience. So but when I came to Australia and migrated here, or I came here as a refugee and went to school, I really felt like I didn't fit in the school. And the only subjects that I think I was drawn to and grabbed my attention were the visual arts, where I felt I was sort of equal and that my language barrier was not an issue. And I felt very, it was a very intuitive process. And I remember even kids that wouldn't usually talk to me in class would come and say, I love what you're doing, and that's how it sort of began. And even though I received some discouragement from pursuing the arts, I still felt or saw myself coming back to it, where it was photography or henna, which also was my another art form that I really loved, and I taught myself how to do henna patterns. So I think that's how it started. I think even looking back in the Somali history, art has always been there. Maybe not visual arts, but Somalia is known as the lands of poets. And interestingly, both my mom and dad were poets, and I love poetry, but I could never, get my words correctly, whether it was in Somali or in English. So I kind of left that. But even within my work, I use poetry, and in my last work, especially with the Erased series, I used a poem of a late Somali activist and artist named Hawo. And poetry has not only been there, and an art, what I call it art, but poetry has been there not just to produce culture and maintain culture, but it was also, doing my research, I also found that it was really a big part of the independence movement in Somalia, and the women and the men would write poetry to try and get people to get rid of the colonialists. And the colonialists didn't understand. They were just thinking, oh, they're doing poetry, so it's harmless. But what they were doing was actually instilling people the courage to fight back. And that's one way you can use poetry, and it has really made a beautiful, I think, success, and that was whole big part of the independence movement. But apart from that, art can be used to make change. And even within my own personal life, I felt that art really saved me, because when I couldn't speak eloquently in other way, art was my way of saying things and dealing with things and traumas that have happened in the past. But at the same time, I discovered that art, can be a tool to break down barriers. So people would come to me, when I'm doing my henna, and they would, naturally, it's just an easier way for people to open up and to discuss things that are naturally can be quite confronting. So whether it's visual, whether it's the written word, whether it's spoken word, whether it's comedy even, it has its way of getting the attention of the people without confronting them. And then after it gets the attention, you can have your messages that you want to say, things that are important to you. And I think that's really vital for the Somali community, because we don't see anything Somali related in anywhere, whether it's books, whether it's, videos, whether anywhere. So kids that are growing up here have this feeling that, that they don't want to be Somali because there's nothing positive about the Somalis. And as you said, everything they hear and see from other people is always about the war and the famine and the victim sort of mentality. And I think in that sense, art is a really beautiful tool to bring all of that out, I think. One message that I would like to say, or one thing I would like to say to the young Somali people, including my daughter and others who are listening, is be yourself, be who you are, be proud of who you are. In the Somali history and tradition, there is a lot there that you might not see, but it's there, and it's being yourself that will open up all the doors for you, I think. And it's be true to yourself, and in that way you'll also, I think, find a sense of your purpose in life as well. So yeah, be yourself. Absolutely.